Welcome back to the deep end.
Mm.
Usually when we sit down to record these, we're talking about a specific book or a breaking news article, maybe a dense scientific paper on AI or biology.
Mm.
We turn on the bright studio lights, we pour some coffee, and we get to work. But tonight feels different.
It definitely does. The atmosphere is a bit thicker, heavier, maybe?
Heavier, yeah.
And not in a bad way.
No, not bad. Just dense.
Mm-hmm.
We are entering a space today that feels less like a university lecture hall and more like a late-night campfire chat.
Mm-hmm.
You know that feeling when the fire dies down to embers and you're staring into the dark woods behind you and you're not entirely sure what's looking back?
That is the exact vibe we're going for, because today we aren't just analyzing data, we are peeling back the layers of reality.
We really are.
Quite literally.
We are. But before we get too deep into the Twilight Zone, and trust me, we are going deep.
Right.
We have to handle the housekeeping.
The necessary part.
It is mandatory, it is necessary, and it keeps the lights on. So,
Okay. Right. A quick, serious reminder for everyone listening. This deep dive is distributed free of charge on all major platforms, and it's for educational purposes.
that's the key.
We are here to explore, analyze, and learn from the source material. We are not doctors. We are not gurus.
We're just guides.
We are guides through text.
Exactly. So grab a blanket, maybe turn down the lights or keep them on if you get spooked easily, and let's get into it.
Let's do it.
Today, we are looking at a very specific, very fascinating document. We are diving into session 120 of the early sessions, book 3 of the Seth Material.
A seminal session. And for those who track these things, the date of record here is January 11th, 1965.
1965. Now, for those who might be new to this or just need a refresher, we're talking about Jane Roberts.
Right.
Jane was a writer, a poet, sharp as a tack, but famously, she was the channel for the entity known as Seth. And usually when we talk about channeling, people have a very specific image in their heads.
Oh, yeah. Ouija boards and floating tables. Spooky stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the context for this specific session 120 is actually really important to set the scene. I feel like it changes how we interpret everything that follows.
It does. This wasn't just business as usual. You have to remember, up until this point in 1965, Jane, while speaking for Seth, had been very kinetic.
What do you mean by kinetic?
She would pace around the room. Her eyes would be open, though often dark and unfocused. She was active. But for session 120, she and her husband, Rob, decided to try something completely different.
A new experiment.
A new protocol, yeah.
Right. So picture this. Jane, or Ruburt, as Seth refers to her, is not pacing. She is sitting in a Kennedy rocker.
Mm-hmm.
She's got her feet propped up on the heat register. She's smoking a cigarette. And for the first time in a while, her eyes are closed.
Which was a significant shift. I mean, closing the eyes signals a much deeper removal from the physical environment.
A deeper trance.
A much deeper trance state. And the notes from her husband, Rob, are fascinating here. He mentions that her voice changed.
How so?
It was stronger, louder, deeper even. Rob notes that the pauses were shorter. It wasn't hesitant.
So, more authoritative.
Very authoritative. It wasn't Jane trying to find the words. It was Seth speaking through the machinery.
That image just sticks with me. A woman in a rocking chair, smoke swirling around her in a dim room, eyes shut tight, booming out the secrets of the universe.
It's cinematic.
It is. But here's the hook, and this is why I want to do this episode so bad. We all have this feeling, right, that modern science, for all its miracles, and I love science,
Of course.
it feels like it's hitting a wall.
A ceiling, perhaps, or maybe a perimeter fence it can't see past.
Right. We can map the genome, we can smash atoms in the Large Hadron Collider, but we still don't really know what consciousness is.
Not a clue.
We don't know why we are here. And Seth, in this session, basically looks at us and says, well, of course you don't know. You're trying to build a puzzle, but you've thrown away half the pieces because they didn't fit the square holes you carved out.
And that is the gentle interpretation.
Oh, yeah.
The more chilling interpretation, which we will get to later in the deeper sections, is that by ignoring the non-physical parts of ourselves, we aren't just being ignorant. We are courting catastrophe.
Yeah, the explosion part. That part gave me goosebumps. We will get there. But let's start with something lighter.
Okay.
Because for an entity that speaks from beyond the veil, Seth is surprisingly funny.
He really is. You expect this booming, doom be upon you, Old Testament voice.
Right.
But he opens session 120 by checking out the furniture.
I loved that. He literally says, first of all, on a jovial note, may I remark upon the new furniture arrangement. Imagine you're summoning a spirit, you're nervous, the air is thick, and he shows up and goes, Love what you've done with the place. That room divider. Gorgeous.
It's so disarming. And I think that's calculated.
You think so?
I do. He even apologizes in this session. He says, "It appears that I have lectured you constantly, and I'm afraid of late in quite a dry, official manner." And then he promises a less formal and more friendly time.
Why do you think he does that? I mean, why would a multidimensional entity care about being friendly?
Well, think about the medium. He's speaking through a human being to a human being.
Okay.
If he comes across as too alien, too cold, or just too terrifying, the message gets lost in the fear. By commenting on the furniture, by apologizing for being boring, he humanizes the interaction.
Makes it a relationship, not just a data dump.
Exactly. It establishes trust. And speaking of trust, they talk a bit about the procedure itself in the notes.
Right. Jane was nervous.
She was apparently incredibly nervous before the session started. She didn't know what to expect with this new sitting down method.
Yeah, Rob notes she was uncomfortable. She felt vulnerable.
But Seth reassures them immediately. He says the experiment is working well, and they even had a safety mechanism, right?
They did. This is a crucial detail for skeptics or, people who worry about possession.
Right. What was it?
Seth mentions that if Jane feels momentarily panic-stricken, there is a signal set up to bring her out of the trance automatically.
A kill switch. Essentially, it shows that this isn't a hostile takeover, it's a cooperative venture. There are safeguards. The entity respects the host.
Which is good to know because the stuff he starts explaining next, well, you'd want a safety harness.
Definitely.
Let's move into section 2 of our outline, the ill-fitting miniature universe.
This is where the rubber meets the road. This is the core philosophical argument of the session.
Seth starts critiquing human knowledge. And as I said, he doesn't pull his punches. He basically says we are willfully blind.
That's a good way to put it. He says, mankind's present general insistence upon recognizing no other fields of actuality but his own, the advance of knowledge is curtailed.
Curtailed. That's such a polite way of saying stunted.
It is. He's arguing that we are obsessed with the physical. If we can't touch it, weigh it, or measure it with a ruler.
Or say it's not real.
Exactly. We call it hallucination or imagination.
And because of that, we are confused. Seth uses this brilliant metaphor. He says, we are trying to construct a model of the universe with only a handful of available clues. He called it an awkward, ill-fitting miniature model universe.
Awkward and ill-fitting. I love that description. It implies that we are constantly trying to jam puzzle pieces together that don't belong, or we're ignoring the giant gaping holes in our theory of everything.
It makes me think of an analogy. Imagine you're trying to understand the plot of a really complex emotional 3D movie.
Okay.
But you decide to wear an eye patch, put in heavy earplugs, and you only look at the bottom left corner of the screen.
That's a great analogy. A perfect one, actually.
You're seeing something. You might see a footstep into the frame. You might feel a vibration from the bass. So you write down foot, vibration, and you build a whole science around the theory of vibrating feet.
And you're proud of it.
You're very proud of it. But you're missing the dialogue, the music, the other characters, the actual plot.
And if someone taps you on the shoulder and says, hey, there's a whole orchestra playing right now, you shout at them, there is no orchestra. I only have data on feet and vibrations.
Exactly. And Seth argues that these missing clues aren't just extra details. They are the foundation.
What's the quote?
He says, the clues which he does not look for are facts that are at the basis of the universe as he knows it.
So it's not the icing, it's the cake.
It's the whole recipe. This leads us to the concept of inner vitality. This is a term Seth uses a lot.
It is.
Break down inner vitality for me. It sounds like a vitamin supplement.
Huh. In a way, it is the vitamin of existence. We tend to think the physical world is the real thing, the solid thing, and that energy, spirit, or consciousness is just a byproduct.
Like the brain creates the mind.
The brain creates the mind. That's the standard model. Seth flips that entirely. He says the physical universe is formed by inner vitality.
So the energy comes first, the matter comes second.
Always. There is a quote here that really stopped me in my tracks when I was preparing for this. He says, if the physical universe existed on a physical field only, indeed, this would be the greatest miracle of all, for it would be impossible.
Impossible. That is such a definitive word. There's no wiggle room there.
None. He's saying that matter cannot sustain itself without the underlying energy that creates it. It's like trying to have a shadow without an object to cast it.
Oh, that's good.
You can study the shadow all day, measure its length, its darkness, but if you don't acknowledge the object or the light source, you'll never understand why the shadow moves. You'll think the shadow has a life of its own.
And this is why he says our psychology and medicine are kind of broken, right?
I think so, yeah.
We treat things like ESP or telepathy as these bizarre, isolated domains, like, oh, that's just weird magic stuff. Let's put it in the corner with the ghosts and the UFOs.
Right. We treat them as anomalies,
Yeah.
glitches in the matrix. But Seth is saying they aren't anomalies. They are just part of the data we've chosen to ignore.
It's just more of the movie we're not watching.
Exactly. If you looked at the whole picture, the movie and the soundtrack ESP would seem as natural as gravity.
It's like discovering radio waves. Before we knew about radio waves, the idea of a voice traveling through the air was magic.
It was sorcery.
Once we understood the mechanism, it became physics.
Precisely. Seth is trying to teach us the physics of the non-physical.
Okay, speaking of physics and biology, this is where we get into the stuff that made my skin crawl a little bit.
I know what you mean.
In a good way, but also in a, whoa, I need to rethink my entire body way.
Yeah.
We are moving to Section 3, the multidimensional body and the chemistry of consciousness.
This is the densest section of the transcript, and honestly, it's the most revolutionary if you really sit with it. This is where Seth bridges the gap between hard biology and metaphysics.
He starts talking about hormones. Now, I did well in biology class. When I think of hormones, I think of chemical messengers. Testosterone, estrogen, adrenaline, cortisol. They are chemicals that tell my cells what to do.
That is the miniature universe view. That is the vibrating foot view.
Okay, so what's the bigger picture?
Seth goes deeper. He states hormones within the physical body have not only a chemical, but an electric, rather electromagnetic basis and reality.
Electromagnetic. Okay, I can follow that. Nerves use electricity.
Yes, but here's the kicker. He calls them connectors with other fields of existence.
Wait, pause. Connectors with other fields.
Mm-hmm.
Are you telling me that Seth is saying my adrenaline isn't just a fight or flight chemical, it's a portal?
Essentially, yes. Imagine your body isn't just a closed loop of meat and fluids. Imagine it's a porous vessel, a transceiver.
A transceiver.
Seth explains that we exist in many fields simultaneously: physical, mental, psychic, and hormones. They are the bridge. They are the mechanism that translates energy from one field to another.
Okay, so let's unpack the drainage concept he brings up. This was wild to me.
Yeah, this part is amazing.
He says that when we have an excess of chemicals in the body, maybe from stress or intense emotion, the subconscious handles it.
Correct. The subconscious acts as a channel or a regulator. It drains that excess chemical energy off the physical plane and projects it into other fields of actuality.
It's like a cosmic plumbing system.
That's actually a very accurate way to put it. When the pressure gets too high in the physical tank, the valve opens and the energy flows into the non-physical tank.
It works both ways.
It works both ways. We also receive energy from those other planes, which is projected into our physical field to be used as fuel.
It's a constant flow, a transformation of energy. We aren't batteries, we are conduits.
Exactly. But ask yourself the question, what happens when the plumbing gets backed up?
That is the chilling part.
Seth explains that in all instances of ill health, psychic inner forces are being misdirected.
Specifically, he talks about mental illness and schizophrenia here. And this is a sensitive topic, so we want to be careful, but we are reporting on what the text says.
Right, and it's a very different perspective. Seth suggests that if that excess chemical buildup, that potential energy, isn't properly drained into other fields, it accumulates.
It gets trapped.
It stays trapped in the physical system. He says it becomes deadly. It leads to insanity or personality fragmentation.
So schizophrenia, in this specific view, isn't just a brain-broken situation. It's a failure of the drainage system.
Right. The pressure builds up because the connection to the other fields is blocked or misdirected.
It's like capping the exhaust pipe of a car. The engine chokes on its own fumes. The engine isn't broken in design, it's broken in function because the flow is stopped.
That's a perfect way to describe it.
And this leads to his critique of modern medicine. And honestly, this hits hard.
It really does.
Seth notes that we can treat these things chemically. We can force an artificial balance with drugs. We can lower the pressure. But he argued that often fails in the long run.
Why does he say it fails?
Because, as he puts it, the inner self has not been signaled that an error is being made. We are patching the leak without fixing the pipe.
You're just managing a symptom.
Exactly. He says, the left hand does not know what the right hand is doing.
That is a profound way to look at mental health. It's not just about serotonin levels or dopamine receptors. It's about the communication between your ego, your subconscious, and these other fields of reality.
It suggests that true healing requires reestablishing that communication. It requires the ego to acknowledge that there is a plumbing system to begin with.
Which is hard for the ego to do because the ego likes to think it is the king of the castle.
The ego is definitely the villain in this story, isn't it? Or maybe not the villain, but
The incompetent middle manager.
the incompetent middle manager who refuses to read the memos from corporate. That's a perfect description.
Yeah.
Which brings us to magic, or what we think is magic. Section 4, the physics of magic, ESP and telepathy.
I love how Seth reframes the supernatural here. He basically says, it's not magic, you're just not paying attention.
He talks about telepathy. And usually when we say telepathy, we mean, I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 10, or I knew you were going to call.
Right, mind-to-mind communication between people.
But Seth goes micro. He talks about cellular telepathy.
This is one of my favorite concepts in the whole book. He says, telepathy goes on constantly, my dear friends, in all fields of actuality. Telepathy goes on within the body between the cells.
That is so funny and weird to think about. My liver is communicating with my spleen. My white blood cells are chatting with my stomach lining.
It's a funny image, but think about the complexity of the human body for a second.
Good.
Billions of cells, all performing different functions, all needing to react instantly to changes in temperature, threat, hunger. Nervous systems are fast, but are they fast enough to coordinate everything simultaneously?
Seth implies they aren't.
He implies that there is a deeper, faster network. He says telepathy exists because no systems are truly closed systems. Information is always leaking through the walls.
So it's not a signal, it's just shared knowledge.
It's a shared field. Your
Yeah.
cells don't need to send a wire to each other. They just know because they share the same energetic field.
And then he tackles clairvoyance. Again, he links it directly to physics. He doesn't say spirits tell you the future. He says something much more grounded.
Clairvoyance exists because matter and energy are one and the same thing.
That's the key.
E equals mc squared.
Basically, since your organs are made of energy, and energy is connected to all other energy in the universe, your organs are technically clairvoyant.
Wait, hold on. My kidneys are clairvoyant.
Theoretically, yes, because the energy that makes up your kidney is not separate from the energy that makes up the chair you're sitting on or the car driving down the street. It's all the same field. It's all connected.
This is where he roasts the human ego again.
Oh, yeah.
He says the inner self and even our physical organs are receiving this clairvoyant data all the time. They perceive the danger before it happens. But the ego is that guy at the party who refuses to admit he's wrong.
The ego is the gatekeeper. Seth says the ego acts on this information to save itself from danger, like that gut feeling you get to not get on a plane or to turn down a specific street.
We've all had that.
We all have, but it refuses to admit where the info came from. It takes the credit.
Yeah.
The ego is like, I have great intuition. I'm so smart. Meanwhile, your liver's like, I literally told you that via telepathic signal 5 minutes ago.
It's a survival mechanism, you have to understand. The ego focuses on the physical world to keep us safe in the physical world. It has to filter out the noise.
That's a good point.
If we were constantly aware of every telepathic signal from every cell and every future event, we'd be paralyzed.
True. We couldn't function. We couldn't drive a car if we were feeling the emotions of the other drivers.
Exactly. So the ego puts up blinders. But Seth warns, and this is the pivot point of the session, that this denial has gone on too long.
The blinders have become welding masks.
That's a great way to put it. We can't see anything anymore.
And that brings us to the heaviest, most urgent part of the session. Section 5, the warning.
This is where the tone shifts from fascinating classroom lecture to urgent warning from the future. You can feel the shift in the text.
Seth talks about a transition period. He acknowledges that, historically, it was necessary for us to focus on the outer world. We had to build civilization, learn to farm, build houses, discover penicillin.
Master the physical plane.
We needed to focus on matter.
Right, we needed to master the physical environment. But he says the channels to the inner self were never meant to be closed entirely. We were supposed to keep the back door open.
And now we've locked it, boarded it up, and painted over it.
And pretended it was never there.
And he says we are in a dangerous spot. He says, for the species, this present period is transitory. But the length of this period, if drawn out, could bring about results most unfortunate.
Results most unfortunate. That is classic Seth understatement right there.
I mean, that's chilling. So he lays out two possibilities, two paths for humanity. And neither of them are pretty if we don't wake up.
Not at all. Path number 1, worldwide catastrophe.
Yikes. That's big.
It is. This happens if the ego runs wild. If we continue to deny our interconnection, if we operate solely as isolated physical beings fighting for resources in a meaningless, dead universe,
We destroy ourselves.
we destroy ourselves. Because if I think I am separate from you, if I think my survival depends on crushing you, and I have nuclear weapons, that's a wrap.
It's the ultimate result of the miniature universe model. If there is no connection, there is no empathy. There's no reason not to.
Exactly.
And path number 2.
Personal explosion.
That sounds messy and intimate.
It's psychological, but it has physical consequences. He says the inner self, restrained and denied for too long a period, could explosively overwhelm the ego.
So a total mental breakdown.
But be viewed differently. Not a breakdown because of weakness, but a breakdown because of pressure.
Okay.
Think of a pressure cooker. If you weld the lid shut, the ego, and turn up the heat, inner vitality, what happens?
It explodes. The metal shatters.
The inner self will make itself known. If you lock the door, eventually it's going to kick the door down. And when it does, it won't be polite.
It'll look like madness.
It'll look like madness. It will look like chaos.
This really reframes how we look at societal collapse and mental health crises. It's not just random bad luck.
No.
It's a pressure valve bursting because we are ignoring half of our reality. We are trying to suppress the very thing that keeps us alive.
Exactly. We are trying to run a high-voltage system on low-voltage wiring. Something has to give. The wire melts. The fuse blows.
So what's the solution? Does Seth tell us to destroy the ego,
Yeah.
kill the ego?
Yeah.
I hear that a lot in spiritual circles, death to the ego.
No, and Seth is very specific about this. He does not want to destroy the ego.
Really?
The ego is necessary to navigate physical life. You need an ego to pay your taxes, to drive a car, to have a conversation. It's our interface with the world.
So what does he want?
He wants balance. He wants a partnership.
Ego domination must indeed be halted, but it must be replaced with a partnership between the outer and inner selves.
A partnership. The ego shouldn't be the dictator. It should be the co-pilot. It needs to listen to the navigator, the inner self, instead of insisting it knows the way while driving blindfolded.
I like that. We don't need to stop being human. We don't need to float off into the ether. We just need to stop pretending we are only human.
Right.
We need to acknowledge the rest of the team.
Precisely. Open door. Listen to the signals. Don't fight the flow.
Okay, let's bring this home. This deep dive has been a wild ride.
It really has.
We've gone from furniture arrangements to electromagnetic hormones to cellular telepathy to the potential end of the world.
The full spectrum of the Seth material, no question.
If we had to synthesize this, if you're listening to this while driving to work or doing the dishes or sitting in your own Kennedy rocker, what is the one thing to take away?
For me, it's the idea that surface reality is just the crust. We're walking around looking at the pavement, ignoring the magma, the tectonic plates, the entire planet beneath our feet.
That's a great image.
Your body isn't a machine, it's a portal. Your hormones are bridges.
And the aha moment for me is that denial is dangerous. Ignoring your intuition, ignoring that inner voice isn't just being rational or skeptical. It's actually blocking the machinery of your own health. It's clogging the pipes.
It creates a blockage that leads to explosion. The most rational thing you can do is acknowledge the irrational.
So here is a provocative thought to leave you with tonight. If Seth is right and your cells are telepathic, what are they saying right now?
And if you are constantly suppressing that inner data, ignoring those hunches, pushing down that weird feeling because it doesn't fit your logic, are you risking a personal explosion?
Don't let your ego run wild this week, folks.
Listen to the quiet parts of yourself. They are louder than you think.
Before we go, we have to give credit where credit is due. This material comes from the Seth Material, specifically the Early Sessions, Book 3. The publisher is the New Awareness Network.
If this conversation sparked anything in you, confusion, excitement, fear, curiosity, we strongly encourage you to go to the source. Don't just take our word for it.
Please don't.
Read the books. Experience the voice for yourself.
You can find them at sethcenter.com/early day sessions. Go support the work. It's mind-bending stuff, and honestly, we only scratched the surface of session 120.
Truly, there is so much more there.
Thanks for diving deep with us. Keep your eyes open, and maybe keep your mind open too. We'll see you in the next reality.